All right, welcome to the Good Rookies podcast. My name is Faheem.
My name is Nelly J, y'all, and we are Good Rookies.
That's right.
What's up, everybody? You know who it is, your Good Rookies family. And y'all, this is episode 22.
That's right.
Y'all, I am ecstatic to have this guest on. This man, a real Toronto man, yes. So, please introduce who we got.
We have a man of many hats: producer, director, podcast extraordinary. You name it, he checks
everything.
He checks all the boxes. So I'm really excited to get into this for the next hour. Just pick his brain a bit. We have Kwame. We have Damon Kwame Mason on the podcast today.
Woo!
Yes.
Kwame.
We're on the two twos. This is the two twos episode.
Yes, it is, man.
We're in Toronto. We got to call it the two twos. Okay.
So Kwame, man, honestly, how are you doing? First of all, 2020 is done. Praise the Lord. But how are you though? How did you handle 2020?
You know what? I was fortunate enough to put myself in a position where I could just sit back and watch everything that was going on and just keep my family safe, be safe, and create some new pieces of content. You know, when you look at 2020, there's always the good and there's the bad, you know, and there's a lot of the bad. Like I had a documentary that I would have been done by now, but because of COVID, we had to shut that down. And so that was kind of disappointing because I was amped up for that. I was with the National Hockey League, and, you know, that kind of sucked. But, you know, we got to start a new podcast with the National Hockey League. And, you know, I just signed a contract with them to officially come on board as a consultant with the league. So, you know, I've been okay. And, you know, I mean, you know, right. You know, God had my back. So, you know, a lot of people, you know, man, like a lot of people are suffering throughout this pandemic, but, you know, I've just been thankful that, you know, me and my family have been good.
No, that's great to hear. So I want to mention that it's rather unfortunate what you mentioned about the movie or being delayed because of the COVID situation. But there are some good things that have come out of COVID. We have seen, so you have a podcast, first of all. It's Soul on Ice, the podcast.
Yes.
Download at all podcast platforms. Get that. That's right. You have an affiliation now with the NHL Studios podcast.
Yeah.
And with your podcast, it's not just you, but you also have some co-hosts that come in and add some flavor to it. Also being Akil Thomas, as we know, Canada game winner, hero. Salute to Akil Thomas. And also Elijah Roberts also, right? So with the podcast, I just want to mention that it's called Soul on Ice, which may be kind of self-explanatory in regards to you're dealing with being Black in hockey, but from different aspects also. You've had people from like Grant Fuhrer, a legend, Val James, George LaRock, Joel Award. You've had
Xavier Woods from the WWE.
Yeah. Keep going, my friend. Keep going.
Commissioner Gary Bettman from the NFL.
That's right.
Some great ladies, Soraya Tinker, and Blake Bolden, Kiana Scott, Sarah Nurse, bronze medal winner for Team Canada women's hockey. It's you know, a good array of guests. Yeah, Soul on Ice is you know, when we talk about Black people, we got soul, man. James Brown told you from way back, and so that's really the reference. It's you know, our soul on this ice, and it's also based off of the film that I made as well.
So, and we'll get to the film later in the For the Culture segment, but I got a quick one for you. Just give me an A, B, or C. Soul on Ice. When I hear it, when I hear Soul on Ice, I think of, first thing comes to mind is Rascas.
Okay. Not
second
me,
comes,
but yeah.
Second comes to mind is the book.
Yes.
From Eldridge
Cleaver,
right? And C, there's no other. So I just wanted to know, of the three, where was the inspiration for the name for the movie?
B.
B is the book.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. I
Yeah,
thought I
ask me
thought it
about
might
the
have been a
book.
song because I know your background in regards to hip hop. So I thought that Rascast song might have got you. But go ahead.
I actually interviewed Rascast back in the days too.
Okay.
But
Okay.
you guys know Mark Stoddard.
Of course.
Yeah, the graphic designer,
Right.
clothing.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
We were sitting in Tim Hortons probably 2012, and we were just, talking about the film because I wanted to get some artwork from him. And he's like, "What's it going to be called?" And I thought the title of the film was going to be called "Young, Black, and in the NHL."
Okay.
And he was, but he was more saltier than that. He was just like,
He's like,
He's
"Come
a
on,
real
the
friend, though.
microwave."
He's a real friend, though, right? He told you the truth.
I said that to him. He said, well, okay. And he's like, "Yo, why don't you call it Soul on Ice?"
Ooh.
I was like, "Bomb." I was like, "I like that." And we did, we started talking about the book and stuff. And then, I always had envisioned that the documentary was going to be about the guys who came before us, the guys who are playing right now, and what we're going to look to in the future. And I just thought like literally we're sitting there in Tim Hortons. He said Soul on Ice, and then 2 seconds later I was like past, present, and future. And I was like, boom, because I didn't want to just sit on Soul on Ice because I thought we might have some problems just saying that.
You would.
You know what I'm saying? So I just added past, present, and future. I always like those type of long name films. So that's where it all came from. So yeah.
All right. Yes.
Shout out. Your answer is B.
Shout out to Mark's daughter. Actually, we played men's league together. Basketball. So the city's small connections are very, very short. So shout out to him. Actually, he does great work. Great.
That's the homie. He did the Soul Night graphic. That graphic is from him. He's the one who came up with it.
No surprise. He's a talented dude.
I owe that guy a lot, man. I owe people all over in North America just like, oh, I even seen people biting it. I'm like, damn it, I should have locked that one in.
Trademark that.
Yeah.
It's all good. So as you mentioned earlier, how COVID has affected you in regards to getting things off the ground in regards to movies, etc. COVID's affected not just you or me or Nelly J, it's everybody. Biggest thing I'd have to say in regards to hockey, it'd be great to get your input in regards to how you. So there's 3 aspects in which COVID has really affected hockey in regards to the NHL Canadian division, and them having to play up north, the NHL division sponsorship in regards to the name of the divisions, and thirdly, in regards to the helmet advertising. Those are 3 ways in which COVID is really, they've had to find creative ways to make money because you can't get people in seats to make money. Nelly J, anything in regards to, I know you had something you want to say in regards to that.
Yeah, so Kwame, right? Let's be real, okay? The NHL this year is going to be quite interesting because number 1, there's no preseason. None.
Right.
0. Number 2, typically they have 82 games. Now the NBA went down to 70 games, 72? The NHL is going to 56 game season.
Yeah.
Kwame, and then on top of that, each team has to play their division teams 8 to 10 times.
Yeah.
So what's your real thought as an avid hockey fan?
Yeah.
Is this going to be an asterisk, like an actual yo, we're not going to rate it because they're not playing in regular division. They got to play themselves 9 to 10 times. And on top of that, there's less games, 56. That's nothing in NHL.
I wouldn't put an asterisk on it because the game of hockey for any athlete that's playing at that high level is highly competitive regardless. These guys have been itching to get back on the ice. I think they're going to give us a good product. And I'm excited to see what they do. It's just, we're adapting, we have to adapt, and it's either we play or we don't play. And if we do play, well, then how are we going to do it? And if this is the way we have to do it, then this is the way we have to do it. There might be some hiccups, just like there has been some hiccups in the NBA or the NFL, but everybody is like, again, COVID has affected everybody, every league. There's nobody that's good money. Everybody has to figure it out. So I mean, again, I'm a guy who gets excited like around October, September, and I'm good till June.
Exactly.
Some people tell you, be like, yo, like weekends, that's you're not really talking to the kid around there. So I mean, it's changing up. You know, I'm glad that the games are going to be starting back up, and you know, I just want to see hockey, man. I just want to see it. That's just
period. You don't care how the game,
you know what I mean?
care how
Let's
it
go.
played.
I will say, you know, sports is obviously a little different without having the crowd. You know, when they first went into the bubble, the whole crowd thing, I was like, I don't really care about the crowd. But, you know, I caught myself watching some, you know, top 100 plays of the year and all this. And I was actually telling this to the commissioner of the NHL, Gary Bettman. I said, Gary, you know, I was watching these best of shows, and I started thinking about the crowds a lot. I always would be looking at the crowds because as a filmmaker, you know, I don't just look at the action. I look at what's behind. That's just how I'm trained. I'll look at the extras and all this. And, you know, if we think back at Kawhi Leonard's amazing buzzer beater for Toronto against Philly, it's great to watch him. But when you look at the crowds, the individual people's reaction, that's what gets me jacked up.
Right.
So to not have that anymore, it's like, did we take for granted social interaction? And now with COVID and the universe has said, you got none. How do you deal with that? So that's the one part that it's sad. So I don't really worry about the money. I don't worry about all that stuff when it comes to the game. I just I want to see the guys play, but I really do feel bad that, you know, they don't get that energy from the crowd as well.
Yeah, I want to ask you about, like, because I know in NBA, you know, luckily the rookies have been playing pretty well. The ones who were drafted early, like, you know, we're seeing a lot of the guys who were drafted, like, wow, they're playing good. How are the rookies going to handle this with the NHL having no exhibition game? Because the NBA had at least, I think, 8 or 9, but there is none. So how will that impact teams trying to kind of figure out what to do on the ice?
So from what I've been told, a lot of the teams have been having a lot of intramural game sessions. Now, it's obviously a lot different than playing another team because you got that hate on, you got that aggression on, you know, intramural, you're playing against your fellow teammate, but you're also fighting for a position. I don't know if you guys seen the clip of PK Subban fighting his teammate, you know what I mean? So that's two guys competing hard. So, you know, our co-host, Akil Thomas, who was drafted or is drafted to the LA Kings, he just went through their camp and he said, Kwame, it's one of the hardest things. And, you know, it's just a grind. So I think the guys will be fine. You know, you'll get a little rust the first week, but after a while, they'll be good to go. They're pros. They've been doing this since they were 4 years old, man.
Yeah,
true.
Facts.
So we're on COVID right now. So I just want to mention this. So there's, like I said, the 3 different aspects in which it's affected. If you had to choose one of these 3 to keep, because, you know, some things are temporary, some things maybe start off temporary, and then after you look at it and say, hey, you know what, that might work for our league. So you have the division sponsorship, which is Scotia, NHL North, Honda, NHL West, Discover, NHL Central, and Mass Mutual, NHL East. That's a sponsorship aspect. You have the helmet aspects in regards to the ads on the helmets.
Yeah.
And then you have, lastly, just the Canadian division of Canadian teams playing each other for the whole season until they get to the playoffs. So of the 3, which one do you think has potential to remain even after COVID?
The helmet sponsors.
I'm with you.
I see that. I see that. You know, I think they were already going in that direction.
Right.
It's a good way for them to make some money. So I don't see the whole Canadian thing. That just would get boring, especially when you get fans. I mean, it's going to be great for this, but I don't really want to see it like that. I want to see them play more teams and get their divisions back. And, you know, so yeah, I think the helmet stickers are going to be the one that go. They're going to have some really cool decals this year, you know, so.
And for the helmets, as you're mentioning, guess how much they look to generate in helmets this year? Take a guess. Nelly J, I'll let you go first.
Well, I'm gonna cheat because TSN's guys.
So hold on, no. So,
well,
so
he
Kwame,
said what
go.
he thought it would be, so I'm gonna say what he said.
Okay.
Just a ballpark.
A milli?
Milli per
No,
team or milli for the league for the
for
whole
the
year,
league.
Kwame?
My
For the
apologies. Let me
whole year.
for the league. For the
For
league.
the
My bad.
league.
Just a
Yeah,
ballpark.
Billy's too little. 5-10.
5-10 million.
Yeah.
They say between 80 and 90 million for the helmets in total for the league.
So it's funny because
Oh no, so it's okay. I had to research it, so you don't feel bad.
yeah, because it's funny because from what they gathered this year, it's only be 15 million. Because the thing is that the richest teams, they said, will only get $1 million for the helmet ad. Because remember, it's NHL. There isn't as much fans, as much. Remember also less games too, right? So if that a full game, probably be more, but with less games, that's why. Number two, they said the smaller teams are probably getting the thousands or half of that. So, so unfortunately, but I know in the NBA, for example, Golden State for their jersey ad, they were getting 20 million a year from Rakuten. So 20 million, and Montreal and Leafs will get $1 million for the year. Right. So it just depends, I guess, on like the format. But I'm sure like once we get to full games, it'll probably increase revenue for sure because the bill will be higher. Right.
Yeah, they got to find inventive ways to make some money, and if they can pull a 50, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. And that's good that companies have that confidence that they would write that check, especially during COVID.
Right, and the placement is great also because like I think it being on a helmet, it's not like intrusive. Like it's just it's a subtle thing. It's kind of like with the NBA with the logo, logos on the jersey.
Oh yeah, in the little corner.
Right, in the little corner.
The
you know
logo on the jersey.
It's not like say for instance the World Juniors or whatever. It's just patches all over stuff like
that's
World Juniors, but the other one. There's a Spangler, is it, or
the Spangler Cup and all that.
One of the patches all over, right?
Spangler, when they had the ones on the forehead, when they had the one on the forehead helmet, it looked like it's coming off and stuff. Someone gotta pat it down like they pat down the wig piece. Yeah, that's corny looking. Yeah.
What's funny is the funniest ad company and partnership team is the Washington Capitals. Their sponsorship is Capital One. I'm like, it kind of comes together. Like that's so dope to me. Like, all caps.
Their arena is Capital One Arena. So
exactly. So it's funny. The Capital.
What kills me is the Boston Bruins. Actually, theirs is TD Bank.
I know that was weird.
And ironically, if you lived in Boston right now, just ask someone walking down the street in Boston, do you know what TD Bank stands for? I don't know if they know it stands for Toronto Dominion Bank.
Yeah.
Especially with the rivalry, right?
It's like I'm in New York, right across the street from Madison Square Gardens. There's a TD Bank there. It bugs me out that there's a TD Bank in the United States, but I think it's only in the East Coast. It's not in the
right. It's just with Boston's history with the Leafs of Toronto. It's just like it's kind of ironic, you know.
I'm shocked Boston even allowed that. It's like we're kind of Toronto secondary.
That's money.
That's right.
That's money.
That's right.
All
right. So Nelly J, let's go to For the Culture.
So for the culture, y'all, so we're going to highlight individuals and just programs that are for the culture, right? Being a Black Canadian, we like to highlight our Black excellence individuals in Canada, and Kwame is definitely one of them. So Kwame, you actually, first of all, I watched the film.
Okay.
First of all, the film, I had no idea it existed, to be honest, until I looked into you. So anyone who doesn't know, please rent Soul on Ice. It's on YouTube. It's on Amazon. It's important. If you're a Black hockey fan, if you're a Black sports fan, period, it's valuable. Like Kwame, I think this movie should be showed in every classroom for Black History Month. I think this should be a part of the curriculum in kinesiology in university. Like I feel like this film should be shown everywhere because it's so powerful. First of all, the opening credits with the Chris Rock quote, hilarious. But just to kind of wind it back to, why did you feel that you had to create a film called Soul on Ice, number one? And how hard was it to get it done, right? Because you're a Black hockey fan trying to create a Black film about hockey. Like, how difficult was it to get it completed for you?
Right. Nelly, thank you for all that. That's I really appreciate that. Especially when people discover it for the first time, because I always like for people's honest opinion, especially as an artist. You don't want somebody just to gas you up. And because I know I believe in the film, so it's always great to know that other people believe in the film. But, Soul on Ice, Past, Present, and Future is on YouTube and all these different platforms, and I do encourage people to get a chance to watch it. But I will say, and I can't really say, but I'm dropping a little jewel. Trust me, in February, you're going to see it. You are going to see it no matter where you are in Canada. I'm just going to say that right now.
Nice.
But
Gotta clap to that. Gotta clap to that still, because it needs to happen. Like when I saw it, I was like, I was flabbergasted at the quality, the storyline, the content. Like I'm like, why isn't this film everywhere? Like I was like, why? It should be everywhere.
Well, it's interesting because like it took me 3 years to make the film. I started in 2012, finished in 2015, and released it 2015. It was pretty hard to make, in the sense that, you know, that's the first film I made. Like my background, 14 years I was working as a radio announcer, and I was living in Alberta, working radio in Edmonton. And I was kind of like just done with my career. You know, for any Black broadcaster in Canada, I don't know what it's like now, but you know, when I was rocking, like you'd be like the only Black guy on a top 40 / urban radio station, which would just blow your mind. How is it that there's just one Black guy on a part urban station? And there was no growth for me. So I had to kind of think about, what else am I going to do in my life? You know, I got to figure this out. I can't just keep going and being the evening guy working in the clubs. I'm done with the clubs. I'm like, I can't get on the mic and talk about, next up, here comes Little Uzi. What little, I don't, you know, I'm a 90s.
The baby, you don't know.
You know what I mean? I'm not, you know, I get it. I get the youngins, that's y'all thing, but I'm Wu-Tang. I'm, you know what I mean? I'm Nas. That's my word. I want to announce those songs. So I thought about film. I always wanted to do film, and you know, this was the way for me to kind of break into the industry. And it was a topic that I knew and I loved, and I thought was very important, because again, as a hockey fan living in Canada, how is it that all of us don't know about the Colored Hockey League of the Maritimes? You ask the average Black person, have you ever heard of the Negro Baseball League? They're going to probably say, yeah, we've heard of that. But if you say, have you ever heard of the Colored Hockey League of the Maritimes that was around from 1895 to 1930, that's our descendants from the Underground Railroad, they'll be like, what are you talking about? And nobody was talking about this. Literally nobody in Canadian hockey, broadcasting, was talking about this great history. And so you know, again, I'm in the mindset, like, you know, we can't depend on them to tell our story. We got to tell our own story. So I just put it on my shoulders. I didn't have no grants or anything like that at the time. So I had equity on my condominium in Edmonton. I just sold that. I just took the money from there, and I was like, okay, let's go, you know, and just,
that's so dope.
Went under. I mean, if the youngins are out there listening, I mean, I don't recommend you take all your money, because that's a wicked gamble. Trust me, there's days you're not eating. It made me quit smoking. That's the good thing about it, because I couldn't afford buying cigarettes. So, you know, there was
silver lining.
Yeah, there was some times where I just didn't know what I was going to do, how I was going to pay this bill, but I just knew I had to make this film. So it was hard in that sense, but you know, it was one of those things that, you know, when I did my interview with Herb Carnegie, who passed away, I knew I had to finish this film for the likes of him and the guys who came from the Colored Hockey. Like there's a rich history in our community with this game of hockey that needed to be shared and spoken of. And so it was like a passion project for me, of all passions. I had to show this film.
Nice. I echo Nelly J's sentiments, what she's saying in regards to just the value of the film you did. I came across it just through randomly coming across a hockey league and coming across you. I watched the film off of YouTube. I suggest everybody go to YouTube.
Yo, go now. Pause the podcast and go watch and come back. I'm joking.
You know, just even little things that, as you mentioned, but I just want to double down on this, that even if someone is aware of the Colored Hockey League, one thing that people have to know, and one thing I want people to definitely take from this podcast today is this: the Colored Hockey League predates the National Hockey League. That's just the facts. Now, in regards in regards to the innovations that have happened after that, that's a different thing. But what I do like about the doc that you've done is it's based off of facts from a book. You know, you have some, Black Ice.
Black Ice. Yeah.
Black Ice.
Yeah.
the history of the Colored Hockey League of the Maritimes from 1895 to 1925. So it's great that you've taken that. But how I see the film is really a lot like Hoop Dreams. I consider this the Hoop Dreams of hockey.
Interesting.
Jaden Lindo, the
Yes.
chronicle of his come up.
Yeah.
It's very reminiscent of the two kids from Hoop Dreams in regards to they chronicled the coming up, right? But what I loved is the way you chronicled not just his come up and what regards to it, but then you tied in the history of Blackhawk players. And it's one thing to throw names, but just the fact that you were able to meet with them, sit down with them, get some, like, it's a very meaty podcast. I mean, very meaty documentary. So I just want to double down on that to say, we really salute you. This is for the culture, and this is definitely a great culture topic.
For the culture equals Soul on Ice, past, present, and future. Like, it's huge.
No doubt.
Yeah, it's all about, like, a guy like Jaden was, really critical to this. I really wanted to show a guy's journey in the game. So yeah, I'm just really glad that you were able to pin that out.
There are a couple quotes that I wanted you to kind of talk about that was said in the film, right? One of the quotes that I loved was, "I'm just a hockey player that happens to be Black." Mic drop. Like, I had to pause when I heard that, because I think Black people, a lot of times, we are put in the same bucket. You're Black, you like watermelon, you like fried chicken. Like, you know what I'm saying? Is that kind of ignorant kind of comment. And I feel like Black people, the diaspora of Black people that came over here, we like many different things. Some like rock, some like pop, some like hip hop. Like, everyone's so different. I think that's important to understand that, being a hockey player and being a Black person are just two different things. They have to be the same thing. But I think a lot of Black players in hockey get stigmatized because they are Black, that they should be like someone else that they see on TV. So what's your thoughts on that statement that he made? And, like, in your journey being a Black hockey fan in Canada, what was that like growing up for you too?
Yeah, so that's a statement that Jaden Lindo had answered, and a lot of, if you're talking to a lot of Black hockey players, especially guys who played in like the 90s or before that, a lot of questions that they would be asked when they were in different arenas, and reporters, they were like, how does it feel to be a Black hockey player? And that was really the sentiment. It's just like, I just happen, I'm a hockey player. I just happen to be Black. Like, there's really no, it doesn't really even make sense, that question you're asking me, because you don't ask a white hockey player, like, how does it feel to be a white hockey player? You just ask them, how does it feel to be a hockey player? They just want to be known as hockey players.
Yes.
So for me, growing up, being a fan of the game, it was different for me, like, because there was kind of like stages. I think, first when I was growing up, the school that I went to, Fenside Public School. And so there, my friends going up to grade 6 were predominantly white. So I did most of the stuff that they did. We BMX biked, we listened to heavy metal, and we played hockey. And, street hockey, ice hockey, the whole 9 yards. And, we were always fans of the game. When I went to junior high school, I'm fortunate enough that I'm old enough that I can remember there was a day there was no hip hop, and then there was a day all of a sudden there was hip hop. Like, a lot of these young kids maybe listening probably can't fathom what that's like, because they just grew up and they just know hip hop, rap music. For us, it was like soca, reggae, calypso, disco, jazz, funk. Then all of a sudden we had our own music. For our, white kids always had their own music as a young kid. They had their heavy metal and their rock and roll. For Black kids, we didn't have our own music at that time, in that age group, in the 80s. But then when hip hop came, it was like, bang, that's us. So now I go to junior high school, my friends are predominantly Black. And I'm doing what they're doing. We're playing basketball or football, we're breakdancing, and we're listening to hip hop music. And so that's around that time when you're becoming a young teenager, when people start to get a little greasy with their talk. So you'd hear the, the reason why there's no black guys playing hockey because your ankles are too thin, or the arenas are too cold and you guys don't like the cold. Or from our black friends, it's like, yo, that's the white boys. That's what the white boys play. We don't play no hockey. So I'm in between there. I'm just like, but I'm loyal to my skin. So hockey just kind of became like this thing I kind of held away from conversations at school, saying, hey guys, let's go play some shinny. Like I wasn't saying that.
Right.
So it was just more watching the game. So I kind of walked away from it. But then interestingly enough, you know, I was still a fan, but not as diehard. It wasn't until around the early 2000s around early 2000s when I moved out to Calgary and started working radio there, because Alberta is sick hockey. Like,
I used to live in Alberta, so I know.
That's all they talk about out there. You know what I mean? And it's, you know, when growing up in Toronto, the athletes, you don't really get to be interface with them as much. In Alberta, them guys is walking down the streets, just hanging out. And so I got I analyzed the game a lot more when I lived in Alberta. That's when I started, you know, I was a fan, but now I'm analyzing. I'm literally breaking it down physically. And I'm saying to myself, yo, how is it that we are not taking over this? But hockey is a game. If black people really wanted to get busy, that's trust me, we could take over that sport in one generation, honestly. Because think of it this way. Hockey is a game where it's like you have to be introduced mainly from your family member. You got to come home and then the parents got to really get you into it. I always look at things like, imagine if Shaquille O'Neal's stepdad said, hey, I'm going to take you ice skating. And made him pick up a stick. What if Kobe Bryant's dad was like, one day they're in LA and his dad is practicing and there's a skating event, and young Kobe Bryant goes out there and starts skating and says, oh my God, Dad, I want to do this. Right. That's exactly what happened to Popeye Jones's son, Seth and Caleb. You know, Popeye Jones, NBA legend, was in Colorado. They had a skating event. Their boys went out there, started skating. They were like, Dad, I want to play hockey. He went to a guy by the name of Joe Sackett and said, hey man, my kids want to play this hockey. I don't know nothing about it. And all he said to Popeye was like, yo, they're going to be athletes. Teach them how to skate. Make sure they know how to skate. Get that fundamental down. The rest will handle itself. Imagine if Marshawn Lynch, Des Bryant, all these young black athletes that we see in all these other sports took the one pivot and played hockey.
Right.
Come on, man. So that's where my mind was when I got to Alberta. And so again, that's what got me in the direction of I need to do more in this game. I want young black kids, mainly want young black families, to say my kid can have a different option. They don't just have to play basketball. They don't just have to play football. If they're an athlete, there is another option for them. Yes. And I want to show them through my film that we've been in this. It's not like a new phenomenon. Like we've been playing hockey. I always tell people that the problem with hockey is not diversity. The game has always been diverse. It's just not as diverse as we want it to be. But black people have always been playing this game. The problem is we have not been included. And if we start to get included more so in the hiring, in the local arenas, in the coaching and all those things, we're gonna right. It's in our blood. It's just
right.
You know what I mean?
Also, what makes it more speaking to what you're saying, what makes it more realistic, I think, is the socioeconomic state of black.
Hold on a second.
Go ahead.
Everybody says that the money is the biggest thing that holds black people back. And I say to them, you telling me black people ain't got money?
Right. Now, that's what I'm saying. Nowadays, I think it's more realistic now than possibly 50 years ago.
It,
You know what I'm
it
saying?
is,
Like,
but we always like there's always been middle to upper middle class black people. There's always been that. We've always been around. The problem is they just never been invited to walk into the space of hockey, to take their dollars and put it into, you think you got to pay that, it's a very expensive sport. It is. I'm not saying that. But for anybody who has a child, what wouldn't you do for your kid?
Agreed.
If your kids is killing it, you could just have him play house league and just have fun and play hockey. That's cool. But if he's got a little bit of talent, you're telling me you're not going to invest in that,
right?
Especially if they want it. Come on, man.
You know what? And to add to what you're saying, so I emigrated here from Trinidad and Tobago. So when I first came here, in Trinidad, we're cricket and soccer, right? So when I came here, I remember my brothers who are all like really great athletes growing up. We were told by the other immigrants from other islands that, hockey is the white man's sport. And I think that's what we were taught, because people coming from the Caribbean to Canada aren't aware of the history of the colored leagues, right? So I think it's the lack of education and knowledge. I just feel that, hence why I said at the beginning of this segment that we really need to educate young kids. I mean, from like young, like 10, 8, 6, 7, about the colored league, because I think one thing that I saw was amazing, that was that they were doing better than the other leagues in hockey. Like they were making a lot of money, had the most fans, and their style was better. So it just shows how much the NHL has kind of benefited from that colored league. Unfortunately, in the film we talk about how the league kind of ended, but what I love that you ended with the movie was that you also highlighted all the great programs that are out there for colored kids that can play hockey. And I think also that's important, that people understand that there are programs for your kids. If they want to play hockey, it's out there. It's not advertised, but if you look it up, you can find a program for your kid, whether black, brown, whatever color they are, to play hockey at a lower cost and get sponsored. So I think that's really cool too.
Yeah. It's there's a lot of avenues, there's a lot of roads, and I think we as black people, and I think we've done a lot better of a job nowadays. Like, we don't put ourselves in such a pigeonhole. But back in the days, everybody used to be like, when you were in high school, there was the hip hop kids, there was the heavy metal kids, there's the punk rock kids and all that. And there, nowadays some kids just kind of are together,
Yes.
And sometimes we put ourselves in a box, sometimes we put ourselves in a pigeonhole, and we have to just realize that, just like the statement says, hockey is for everyone,
Yeah.
Awesome. No, well, thanks again for creating the film. Like, we are big fans of yours, and
Appreciate
everybody watch Soul on Ice, past, present, and future. Please watch it immediately. That's it. That's my plug.
And if you don't want to pay for it, you don't want to rent it, and you're living in Canada, February, if you're a hockey fan and just keep your eyes open. We got something special coming in February and for Black History Month.
Definitely hit us up with a link so we could pass it on.
It's bigger than a link, bro. There ain't gonna be no links. There's no links here. It's gonna be a link
of, I guess, a link of wherever it's gonna be shown.
I'll give you guys a full Monty once I know the logistics and everything like that. I'll definitely hit you guys up and let you know.
Dope. That's Kwame for the culture. On our last segment on the way out, let's go to That's Absurd.
That's absurd, Faheem, bro. What was absurd this week, bro? What was absurd?
Oh, man. So let's just go with the Raptors. And they had to relocate, as we know, to Tampa.
Forced.
Okay, to Tampa, right? It's well documented now that what's been happening is in Tampa, fans are showing up, but they're not showing up cheering for the Raptors, who is their home team temporarily.
Right. Why would they?
Absurd. Okay. So
Kwame, just to kind of piggy off what you just said, they begged for us to be there. They beg up, right? They beg up. Remember, so they wanted us. So did, I think, Kansas City. Like so did.
Let me help
Kentucky.
you out, Nelly J. Let me help you out. Ready?
Yes.
We go. These are in the runnings before they got the team. It was Tampa, Nashville, Louisville, Kansas City, Buffalo, Newark, and Fort Lauderdale.
Begging.
Should have went to Buffalo.
Thank
I
you.
agree. I totally agree. reason why I think this is utterly absurd is, so say the Raptors go to Tampa, right?
Mhm.
And people in Tampa know, hey, this is not our team. They're just here temporarily, you know. Uh, but Tampa has a history of not being like, I think of the Rays. The Rays, they've had one of the lowest attendance for baseball, right?
Okay.
In regards to hockey, Tampa Bay, I'm pretty sure the Lightning must do pretty
They
good,
do
right?
well. They do well. They do well.
Okay. Reason why I think this is like utterly absurd is the Raptors have created a temporary logo for this place. It's like with the Tampa
Wait.
Raptors logo. So like the Raptors have done their part to make
Mhm.
if you live in Tampa to at least feel as much as it's a temporary situation, to at least make you feel like, hey, you know what, this is your squad. Like you can get you can get some swag, get a shirt, a
Mhm.
t-shirt, Tampa Raptors. For where they are, unless they're playing against maybe the Orlando Magic or the Miami Heat, another Florida team, there's
Yeah.
absolutely no reason for you to be in Florida and be cheering for another team
I mean,
unanimously.
and like chanting for Boston, like they're like they're chanting. And again, right? I'm not trying to blame on the fans for the Raptors' performance, but Kwame, like you mentioned how the fans and how the background is so important,
Energy.
right?
Mhm.
Imagine having a home game, but you have no home. Like it's like they're playing in a home base, and
Mhm.
also in playoffs. Imagine playing in your hometown, but like it's Tampa. They don't care about you. So,
Okay.
as a sports fan, how
Mhm.
can the like how is this going to affect the Raptors' performance? Because playing at home isn't really home anymore. Before,
Right.
I think Toronto fans are so crazy and loving that if they're playing in Toronto, I'm going to guess, guys, I think we would want at least 2 more games if we're in Toronto because our fans would push you through
Right.
difficult times. So, what's your thoughts on this, Kwame?
So, okay, I'll say it like this. The fans do give you some sort of energy to get going. Raptors, and them days is done. Them days is done. It's going to be a minute before we get back to them days, but them days is done. Tampa Bay, Florida. Remember, most people aren't from Tampa Bay. They're from different parts of the country.
Good point.
So they're cheering for their home team. It could be Boston. It could be New York, whoever. People go to Florida to just retire and stuff like that. So you got to remember that's one. So, and the best example of that is go and watch a Toronto Maple Leafs versus Edmonton Oilers game. You swear you were in Toronto.
Right.
Where you were in Toronto. I've been to many games when I was living out there, and it's unreal, the blue and white. Like, it's embarrassing for an Edmonton Oiler. And the same happens for when Toronto plays in Florida. There's so many Toronto fans all over the world that, they just infiltrate. So to me, the whole thing in Tampa, I can understand why that would happen. And I don't understand why they didn't understand that, hey, they may not be cheering for us because most of the people that are living Tampa are not from Tampa. They're from different places in the country.
Mhm.
So if we went to Buffalo and played in Buffalo, you're probably going to have loyal Raptors fans.
Agreed.
No
Good
doubt.
point.
I do
Okay.
agree.
Well, that was absurd, y'all. Absurd.
Absurd. All right, let's put this episode in the book. This is amazing. Kwame, we appreciate you coming through.
Dig it.
We do shout outs on the way out.
For reals. Okay. Okay.
Go ahead. The floor is yours, my friend.
Shoot, I got to give a big shout out to the National Hockey League for giving me the opportunity to normalize Black faces and Black voices in the game of hockey. That's my mission statement. That's what I do. That's how I get down. Big shout out to my nephews, Elijah Roberts and Akil Thomas. So nice, the podcast every Wednesday, dropping on all the platforms. Big shout out to you guys for reaching out and having me on here. Big shout out to Griselda. They're bringing back hip hop the way I love it. And big shout out to the Woo for always doing what they do. Big shout out to the fam, and big shout out to all my Black people. And big shout out to COVID and the universe. And I'm shouting out COVID and the universe for
like
one reason and one reason only. It's allowed us to look inside ourselves. The universe doesn't put these things in our plate for no reason at all. There is a reason why we were in this situation. Without COVID, I guarantee you the protests for George Floyd, for Breonna Taylor would not have happened. We would have went on with our regular day. But because of COVID, people were forced to understand that there are Black people being murdered for no reason at all. So I'm going to give a shout out to 2020, to COVID, and the universe. And hopefully we are taking that message and we are going to give ourselves a better future.
Preach. Yo, that's exactly, like, that's amazing, Kwame. I want to shout you out. I want to thank you for being an advocate for the culture. Thank you for being one of us in rooms where a lot of us will never see or witness. So thank you for being our advocate in spaces and pushing that content. I think it's important in the NHL. I want to shout out all the Black NHL players, because I think sometimes, Black people, we don't really recognize them. They're not really seen in a lot of our cultural videos, music. So shout out all the amazing hockey Black athletes. What you guys do every day, dealing with hostile, sometimes fans base, but understanding it's hockey, you love it, you're sold on it. So big up to you guys. And yeah, I want everyone again, I will say it again, I'm in all y'all, but watch Soul on Ice, period. That's it. That's my shout out, Faheem.
Yeah, my shout out, keep it simple. I just want to shout out Kwame coming through. Want to shout, definitely, I've been taking in the podcast, loving, this is not just, a blind, like, throw out the, like, shout out. Like, this is like a legit, like, listen to the podcast. And really, I like the dynamic that you guys have. Keep it up. Actually, real quick. So once they start playing, how is that going to work with your schedule? Are you guys going to be like, you have a plan B, or like, what's the plan?
Well, I mean, for Akil, he'll be playing, he'll probably go up and down, maybe the American League. So we'll kind of work around his schedule. But, sometimes he'll be on, sometimes he won't. Elijah is playing university hockey, and they're not going to be playing this year. So we'll have a lot of time. So sometimes we'll have everybody on, sometimes we won't. But, I'll always be there to hold it down. So
no
there
doubt.
will always be a show.
All right. So Soul on Ice, the podcast. Be sure to check it out on all platforms. It's well worth the listen. All right, so Nelly J, that's episode number
22.
Two
twos.
Right, that's right.
Y'all, please, thank you so much for watching the episode. Please share with a friend, to share with a friend, to share with a friend. And of course, Faheem, subscribe on Word, bro. Subscribe how? Who? What?
Apple, Spotify, all podcast apps. We're there for you. Be sure to check us out, Good Rookies Podcast. We appreciate your time to take us in today. And let's wrap it up. So that's episode number 22 in the books. Good Rookies Podcast.
Word.
Out.
Word.
Peace.